welcome to another episode of Stuck in My Mind podcast. And today's guest is someone who doesn't just talk about resilience, he's lived it, survived it, and built business from it. He's a serial entrepreneur with nearly 4 decades in the trenches: construction, real estate, manufacturing, hospitality, foreign investment, you name it, he's done it. He's won big, lost big, survived cancer, completed 2 Ironmans, and still shows up with the hunger of someone just getting started. He's the founder of Bootstraps and Battle Scars and creator of Founders Exchange, where he coaches entrepreneurs who are tired of the highlight reels and ready for the real work. This conversation isn't theory, it's scars, stories, and strategies from a man who's earned every lesson the hard way. Let's lock in. This is going to be a real conversation. Welcome to the show, Chris Shurian.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. This is and that was a great intro. I like that. That's well done. Nice work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing good. We're getting ready for Christmas, and I still have a list of things to get done, but this is one of them, and I'm glad to be here.
Pleasure's all mine. So you've lived in 2 very different worlds early on, city life and rural Montana. How did that shape how you see opportunity and struggle?
Oh yeah, that's a good one, Will. Growing up, being born in Southern California and growing up down there, I would have gone to a high school with 1,000 students in my graduating class. And when I was 12 years old, my father decided to retire. He was a network news anchor in Los Angeles, and he decided to get out of California and take me to Montana. So 12 years old, moving, I'm going to say across the country, but in a horizontal way, or vertical way, I guess. And I'll tell you, at the time, you don't really know what you're getting. You don't appreciate that opportunity to have to go to small town, rural Montana. And I was able to do things in Montana that I never would have ever done in California. And, I think we're going to talk about mindset, but just my ability to adapt and my ability to figure it out, to become that kid that fits in up Montana, that was a game changer for me. Not to mention, I'll just, I'm not going to ramble on too long, but, I remember the first winter in Montana. 40 below zero wasn't a big deal, and so coming from California where it's kind of 60 to 70 degrees, and when it's 60 degrees out, you're cold and you're putting your jacket on, learning how to adapt to 40 below, that takes a little bit of power of the mind, so to speak.
All right. So you've built and broken businesses across decades. When was the first time you realized entrepreneurship wasn't going to be glamorous?
Oh, I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. There's been several moments in my career where it's been hard, where I've struggled. We've had some failure. I like what you said about I've built and broken several businesses. Well, I probably have, but I've never thought about quitting. I never ever felt like I was done doing that. It was just for me, it was an opportunity to learn some lessons on what maybe not to do next time, and from an early age, or an early part of my entrepreneurial journey, I felt like I needed to deal with the lows in order to experience the highs. And so even though when I had some struggles and some failures, I'll just come out and say it, I still use that to push me forward. I use it to motivate me. I use it to build the next thing better and make it bigger and better and stronger. I really never really thought about quitting, and I really never thought about, this isn't my deal. What do? I just thought, okay, well, I did some things, for example, in 08, 09, we had a pretty significant economic situation here in the United States, and I was in the middle of the construction industry, and I was, I'm an entrepreneur, so I was spread out pretty thin. I was investing, I was buying land, I was building spec homes, and when that hit, it hurt big time. So, I asked myself some questions. I'd look in the mirror and say, what am I doing? Would I do it differently? Am I going to get a job? And that was never the answer. The answer was to, that's why we're Bootstraps and Battle Scars. The answer was, pull myself back up by the bootstraps, and get back after it and not quit. And that's what I've done several times. Several times.
Awesome. So, what was the moment where quitting would have made total sense, but you just didn't?
Yeah, good question.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna just pull myself off the screen, but you gotta answer the question.
Yeah, you bet, you bet. There's been a couple times where I'm a very persistent and very optimistic person, and so sometimes that persistence gets me in a little bit of trouble. And there have been times, there have been projects I've worked on where I have pushed and pushed and pushed and not given up, only to end up with a result that probably wasn't the result I was looking for. It's funny. You'll read books. You'll read a book that says you got to know, when to back down. You got to know when to cut your losses. And some leaders are probably pretty good at that. But then you'll read other books that say you have to be persistent. You can't quit. You have to push, push, push. And so I feel like in my own personal journey, I probably err on the side of pushing too hard. And it's happened a couple times. There's been a few projects I've worked on where, man, I pushed myself into a corner, and it was hard to get out. And there were some corners I couldn't get out of. But I feel like it's a balance. It's a balance, and there's experts that'll say, hey, quit while you're ahead, and there's experts that'll say, don't quit, don't give up. And which one do you listen to? And in my case, I erred on the side of just don't give up, push, push, push. But there are times when I can look back and say, had I cut my losses earlier, I would have saved myself a lot of money. I would have saved myself a lot of heartburn. And hindsight is 20/20, and I can look at those moments and take them as learning experiences. But I'm still going to plow forward. I'm still going to push. I'm still going to persist. I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter.
So you've lived 9 business lives. What pattern do you now see that you couldn't back then?
Oh man, this go around. I've always enjoyed serving other people. I've always enjoyed helping other people, and so now I have the opportunity to do that. I enjoy it, and I'm probably going to keep. I'm probably not going to scale this business. I've had businesses with 50, 60, 70 employees, large scale operations. And, now in at this point in my life, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to focus on me. I'm going to focus on helping the people I can help and keep it manageable, keep it smaller, keep it less stressful. I'm at a point now where I want to make sure I enjoy life. And sometimes worrying about a payroll, for 50 people, and to some businesses, that's pretty small potatoes,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, the stress is real. No matter how big that payroll is, but knowing every 2 weeks you got payroll, and then you scramble, you make payroll, and you take a big old breath of fresh air, and then it seems like 2 days later it's back at you, and you got to do it again. So I'm gonna avoid some of that. I'm gonna avoid some of that stress. I'm not gonna bring that into my life, and I'm gonna keep it small, keep it fun. Enjoy life a little bit more. Yeah, and let me back up a little bit. I've never been accused of being one that does not enjoy life. I learned early on in my career that you have to enjoy life as you're going throughout this journey. I'm not the guy that says I'm going to work really hard and then one day I'm going to retire and then enjoy life. That's just not who I am. My whole focus in life has been to enjoy it along the way, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to do that. When times are good, you enjoy it a little bit harder. When times are bad, you have to scale back a little bit. But now it's different. Now it's me, it's my wife. All our kids are out of the house. I mean, they spend enough time at the house that they're still around. But we can pack up and take off anytime we want. I can do a podcast from anywhere I want. I can coach my clients from anywhere I want. Nowadays with technology, I fought this. I fought this when 2020 hit. I was never a big fan of the video conference, the video calls. My focus was I want to be face to face. I want to be belly to belly. I want to meet people. I want to talk to people. But man, when COVID hit, as you know, everything changed. And And so I've learned to embrace this idea, and it's better. I like it. I enjoy it. This morning, one of my one of my one of my clients right now has staff members in the Philippines.
Mm.
And one of the exercises I do with that company is I'm interviewing each one of the employees and generating a list of opportunities where that business owner can improve his business. And I'm doing it based on the input from his team. So, he has 3 members of his team that are over in the Philippines. Well, this morning I had an interview and I interviewed one of his employees, and she's in the Philippines and I'm here, and we had this great conversation and we went through all the questions. And then Friday morning, I'm going to do that with 2 other employees, and it works. It works. So this technology is coming around, except for your headset doesn't want to
So
work.
it didn't want to work today. Yeah, I know. It just is giving us this. But sometimes that's what happens, man. When you do live shows like this, right? Technical difficulties happen. You just gotta adapt and just keep going. Like you can't let that get you down and stop it. You can't stop the progress. So we figured it out, and here we are having this great conversation. So it works out, man. But like you said, 2020 was huge for me because that's when I launched the podcast, and it was crazy because being able to connect with so many different people across the world using, like you said, you was talking with someone in the Philippines. But since the pandemic and everything, I've been able to communicate with people from the Philippines, from Australia, from Japan, from Taiwan, from people. I've spoke to people all over the world through through Zoom, StreamYard, and whatever other platforms. But it's been a great experience because you get to realize that even though people in other countries, right, a lot of them want the same thing you want in life, and that's to provide for their families and live a good life. And so it's a big world, but with technology, it's kind of made it smaller, and I've really benefited from it because I've grown from having so many wonderful conversations.
Yeah, for a while, for a few years, I was involved in foreign investment, and a lot of the investors were from China, and so we spent a lot of time communicating back and forth to China. But the technology, it wasn't the same. I mean, I had to I had to go to my office at 10 o'clock at night and sit at my desk where my computer was. I didn't even really have a good laptop back then, and
Hmm.
that's the only place I had my camera. And we'd have these conversations, and we'd log in through, man, I can't remember what that program was called, but it was kind of the only program back in the day where you could do these video conferences. And but now, I mean, now even this, I mean, we carry this thing around, and
Yeah,
I can do a call from anywhere. I mean, it's actually it's amazing, and it's easy, and it's been so great to be able to access people, like you said, from different countries. I mean, you and I are states apart. You
yeah,
know, that's not so bad. But I had this really great meeting with this gal in the Philippines this morning. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah.
And then, my office, the internet's down in my office. So I grabbed my laptop and I came over to my house and I'm in my game room and here we are. I mean, it's too easy. It's too
Yeah,
easy.
no, it's and that's one thing because people will be talking. Oh, I don't like with starting a podcast, right? A lot of people make up excuses. Oh, I can't. I don't have the equipment. Like you have a phone and you have headsets. You can start easy. That's what you need. You don't. People think you need all this money to launch a podcast, and then no, it's a lot of us right now. We have the technology in our hands.
Yeah. It's not that difficult. And then if you need a little technical assistance, you go onto YouTube and you can find anything you need right there.
Oh,
Anyway.
YouTube University? Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has a lot of the answers you're looking for.
Yeah.
So, how did surviving cancer change how you define success and urgency?
Ah, well, that's a good question, and I'm gonna be a little bit raw here with you, but um, I had cancer. I was 50 years old. I monitored my father had cancer a couple times, and so I was pretty diligent about doing my annual physical and having my what's called the PSA levels checked, which is a precursor to prostate cancer. So fortunately for me, I caught it super early. I had options on how to treat it, and I had time to actually process that. And so I am a cancer survivor, but I feel kind of guilty saying that, because there's other people, like there's people in my family, people, in my community. You probably know people who have really had cancer. And I say that because I kind of feel like I'm not a true cancer survivor. I'm a wannabe cancer survivor, if that makes sense. So I know that's not part of what we want to talk about here, but I
Oh no, it's part of your story. It's part of your story. So we definitely want to talk about it, man. So
yeah, and fortunately for me, because I caught it early, because I had options, because I found a good treatment plan, and my mind was always wrapped around, this isn't a big deal. My mind was always wrapped around, this is just another challenge, another thing I have to deal with. So, so that helped me. That helped me tremendously. But once again, that's just how my mind works.
mm-hmm.
So as far as now, and like I said, let me back up. Cancer wasn't like a catalyst that said, Chris, you need to wake up and smell the roses. You need to wake up and enjoy life, because I was enjoying life. I always had this thing. I read a book years ago, and the book really talked about, the traditional plan. You work, you save, and then you retire. But then it also talked about the fallacy of that plan. What happens when you get to 60, 65? And what if your health isn't good? What if your spouse is gone? What if your kids are all moved on? What does enjoying life really look like? You may not have the health to go enjoy life.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that years and years ago. This is probably 15 years ago. I read this book, and it really opened my eyes to, let's focus on enjoying life now. Let's work, but let's enjoy. And it's amazing how your business will run just fine if you're already set in that pattern, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a workaholic and you're working 80 hours a week, and everyone knows that you're up at 4 and you're in bed and you're getting emails at midnight, and they're used to that, and then also you take off for a week, that's shock, right? That's shock. But if you have a company that's established and you say, hey, I'm going to take every other Friday off. I'm going to take, a 5-day weekend once a month. I'm going to take 2 weeks during the year, and I'm going to take off. You just, if that's the way you run your business will run that way, and you can do it. So once again, it's that whole, we're going to talk about mindset. It's a mindset. And if you establish it and do it that way, it works.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Your mindset plays a lot in recovery as well. Like if you go into it the mindset that you're this cancer is defeating you, right? It's gonna eat you alive quicker than. But if you go in like how you thought about it, like I caught this early, and so you don't even consider yourself a cancer survivor because, like you said, you caught it early, and you know that there's been people who've dealt with more severe cases than yours. But it's still the fact that your mindset, you didn't go in with a defeated mindset. You went in with the mindset that, nah, I'm good through this. This is nothing. Like this is just, I caught it early, I'm good. Whereas some people that if their mindset isn't correct and they're already a negative, and that kind of has a much more worse effect on them.
It does, and I know people that have treated it that way, and I think I've seen people defeat themselves by having a negative mindset, and oh my gosh, they get cancer, and the sky is falling. Well, I think they make it worse on themselves thinking about it that way, for sure. In fact, funny story, a good friend of mine, a gal that worked for me for a long time, she went through a breast cancer ordeal, and that was real cancer in my mind, right? But she had a great mindset about the whole thing. And I remember our local NBA team, the Utah Jazz. Let's not talk about the Jazz, right? They were doing a last season. They were doing a big thing where they were honoring cancer survivors, and you get free tickets, and they'd set you up. It was kind of a big deal. They'd bring you on the court and have this little thing, and she did it, and she asked me if I wanted to be part of that. And I said, no, I don't want to take away from the true cancer survivors. So that's how my mind works, right? That's just how my mind works.
So we have a comment, and actually Snowman who overcame cancer. He's been clean for over a year now, but he had a pancreatic cancer, stage 4, got God blessed him, and he's gotten through it, and he's 1 year clean right now. So shout out to Snowman. He's definitely a fighter, and he doesn't give up. So
And I'll tell you what, that's a guy that is a real cancer survivor, and I respect that and I honor that, and I appreciate him chiming in, because it sounds like he conquered it potentially with his mindset, and of course, there's the medication and all the things he had to go through, which wasn't easy. So yeah,
yeah,
I respect that.
he had the support of his loving wife who wouldn't like who wouldn't let him give up. She made them move to Indiana, somewhere where they can really get the second opinion, that actually, because the first opinion wasn't it was bleak. It was they were telling her to get his affairs in order, and she would not let him down. She was like, no, we're going to go get a second opinion, and we're going to fight this. And here he is now, a year later. And so, yeah, mindset does, and having support of people encouraging you and telling you, like, hey, we're going to fight this, it's important.
And sometimes having a wife that's going to kick your ass if you don't fix your mindset helps too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Allowed to say that? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, you can. No, definitely. So what do most founders misunderstand about failure, especially early on?
Well, I see it. I've talked to people, and a lot of people will look at failure as failure, as
Mhm.
I'm quitting. I can't do it. I tried it and it didn't work, and I'm done. Well, come on. How many stories have we heard about Thomas Edison, about all these great inventors of things that they didn't get it right the first time. They didn't get it right the first time, and they didn't call it failures. It's just that's how you learn, right?
Mhm.
So I think too often uh, people, these founders look at failure, they look at hard times, and they quit. But I don't know any businessman, I don't know anyone that's ever been successful at anything who hasn't had to overcome something hard. And hard for one person is different than it is for the other person. I've lost millions and millions of dollars. Well, you know, I'm sure Elon Musk would just laugh at that statement if he heard me say, "Oh man, I lost millions of dollars." He's going to say, "Well, yeah, I've lost hundreds of millions of dollars." It's all perspective, but it's just how you handle it. And so I look at failure as, hey, that's great. Get it out of the way, move on. Let's go on to the next thing. And we're getting closer to the success. That's all it is.
Oh, and yeah, because in my case, uh, I had purchased this my podcasting equipment in 2019, right? And I didn't launch it until I got furloughed from work because of the pandemic and everything. So I had this equipment sitting in the house, just there, and I would record, delete, and I was just making up excuses like, oh no, I don't sound right. It's just I'm not ready, and I was failing because I wasn't attempting. Right, I wasn't. I was like, let me record. Finally, 2020 hit, furloughed. I was like, you know what? I pressed record, released the episode, and that's what started. It was just finally just deciding to just press record and releasing it. It launched all the stuff that I'm doing now.
And now what's funny is you might look at that very first podcast you recorded, and you think, you laugh at it, right? You think,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, I've come so far, you know. But a funny story along those lines, I this just last several months ago, I thought, okay, I'm going to start recording little, help videos, little videos that I might be able to share some sort of a nugget of wisdom and post it on TikTok.
Mhm.
TikTok of all places. But I talked to a friend of mine who's a very successful business coach, and he's had a lot of success on TikTok. He's had a lot of influence. He could tell that TikTok has been a place that he's been able to influence people's lives. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. Well, my son-in-law, his father is a very accomplished, established YouTuber, makes a living on YouTube. And so I called him up and said, Trevor, look, can you coach me a little bit? Like, I'm going to make a video. I'm going to use my phone, and I'm going to make this video, and I want you to watch it and tell me and give me pointers. And, being somewhat of a perfectionist, we could sit there and I could record 50 versions of that video. Right.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, Chris, record it and post it. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about it. It's your first one. The second one's going to get better. The third one's going to get better. Just record it and post it. And that's great advice. It's great advice. So now I throw them out there, and they are getting a little bit better. And if anyone even sees them, it doesn't really matter. It's just what I'm doing. And like you said, you just got to push record and do it.
Yeah. And that's what it took. It took me to finally press record and just, just release it. And I didn't have a clue. I didn't know anything about RSS feeds, the scripts. Like, it was basic. I don't even think I really had full titles or descriptions of it. But it was the fact that I just had to really step out of my comfort zone and make myself uncomfortable and do something that was challenging to me. Like, this wasn't something like you said. I was making excuses. No, it needs to be perfect. It needs to be perfect. Nah, you just press record and just release it. And with time, you're gonna improve. Like with anything, if the more you do it, more repetition, you're just gonna improve with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, what do you have to lose? Like, what's your failure point? It's a podcast. It's going to, in no time, it's going to be buried somewhere deep. And when you run for president, they might find it, make fun of you. But how bad is that? That's not so bad.
Yeah.
It's not so bad. Yeah.
So why do you believe real growth only happens when people drop the armor? Like when they just decide to just let it go? Just
I've learned over the years as an entrepreneur and a founder that it's really lonely at the top. It's really lonely at the top. You're out there, you're fighting, you're grinding, you're motivating your team, you're inspiring your team. You're the guy that they look to lead them to victory. And the hard part is you have to maintain this presence, and you have to maintain this idea that everything you do and know is right. But what I found over the years, when I learned, is that for one, great leaders and great founders rely heavily on their team. They're not afraid to say, I don't know. They're not afraid to say, hey, Joe, I think you can do this better than me, so go do it. They're not afraid to admit that they need the people around them to be successful. And I think part of that is you have to drop that armor. You have to drop that facade of being the guy and let other people in and let them do their job. And I think that as a leader, part of my job is to inspire my team, to motivate my team, to coach my team, and to help them be better. But in order to do that, they need the same respect. They need me to let them do and let them lead. I told you about this interview I had this morning, and one of the challenges that she has right now in the company, and I hope I hope they don't watch this episode. I'm going to spill some beans here, but one of the challenges that they have a very capable team of individuals, and sometimes the owner of the business has a hard time listening and adapting. The owner gets his way, he's set in his way, and he has a hard time listening to what he's getting from his team. And that requires a founder or an owner to really let his guard down, drop that armor, and let other people do their job and help them be great at it. And I'll have to admit, I've had a number of employees who have left my employ and ran off and started their own businesses and have become very successful, more successful than me. In fact, on my podcast, I just interviewed one the other day that had he worked for me. He had already started his own business, but I was his contractor, and I gave him a lot of work and I taught him a lot. And, he built this huge company and did great and sold, did a big exit, and, he's had great success. And that happens, that happens. I think a lot of times we have employees and we have team members that are smarter than us. They're better at the job than us. So let them be. That's the only way you can scale. That's the only way you can build your business without killing yourself, is to bring the people in and let them be part of the team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That was a long answer to your question. I'm sorry.
It was perfect.
I'll tell you, this is stuff. Yeah.
So what's the difference between ego-driven ambition and purpose-driven ambition?
Oh, man. So that's a great question. We all have an ego of some sort.
Yes.
We all do. And I think, to answer your question, if you can establish a purpose, a vision, a mission for your business, and you say, this is why I want to do this. This is why I want to build this company. This is why I want to take care of my customers, because I want to take care of my customers. I want my customers to have an experience. When I was in hospitality, my number one goal was the customer, was the guest, was their experience. It was, when someone shows up with their family to our resort, I want them to leave there with lifelong memories. I want them to leave there a stronger family. And when you can teach that to your team, and you establish the why, the why and the what. This is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it. It makes it easier for them to make decisions. It makes them easier for them to lead in a way that you want to lead. Most of the time I wasn't the touch point for any of these guests that were there. And so as long as your team understands your purpose and your why and why you're doing what you're doing, it helps them do their job. I also think that there's a lot of times when you can do job descriptions, you can lay out their job, you can spell it all out. But at the end of the day, they still have to execute. And sometimes they have to deal with curveballs. Sometimes they have to deal with issues that come up. And as long as they understand that their number one priority is to make that customer, that family, feel good about what's happening, then it helps them make that decision. It helps them help them. And so ego, I think sometimes is selfish. If I'm building a company because I'm saying, hey, this is who I am. I want to be on billboards. I want to be famous. I want everyone to know who I am because I built this great business. I think that's ego driven. Purpose driven is what we just talked about. It's give people a reason why to do what they do.
Yeah. If someone is in a financial or emotional rebuild right now, what should they focus on first?
Well, I think first, that's a good question, Will, because there's a couple different directions we can take that. But if it's business related and someone's struggling and their finances and they're having a hard time, I think they have to just look at that as a temporary situation. Don't let it defeat them. Keep going, keep pushing, keep fighting, and don't stop. Quitters never really amount to anything, as we know. That's kind of a no-brainer quote. So keep going, keep doing, keep fighting. Don't quit. I'm sure our friend that just commented who survived cancer. I mean, where would he be today if he had just quit? Where would he be today if his wife hadn't just, grabbed him by the shirt collar and said, "Listen, dude, we're not quitting. We're going to go to Indiana. I don't care what that damn doctor says.
Yeah.
We're going and we're going to get this figured out." Where would he be? He wouldn't be listening to this awesome podcast. And I'm sure he's got a big old grin on his face because because we're awesome, right, Will? We're having a great time here. We're sharing some wisdom.
Absolutely. No, and no, he's actually I've learned a lot from Brian. He has his own show, the Snowman in the Morning, and that's where I kind of cut my teeth learning how to do live shows, was being a part of his show and connecting with him through podcasting and everything. So yeah, no, I'm blessed to still have him around, and I'm sure his wife is happy that he's still around. But he's a great guy, and he's been through a lot. But again, he'll be one of the first people to tell you that he had to work on his mindset. He had to work on a lot of the negative stuff that he was battling. But having the support system that he had, it's really helped him. So yeah, no, shout outs to Snowman. He's really been key in my growth. So I'm again blessed to still have him around.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to say, part of my mindset, I think, came from my father. My father was a doer. He was a get her done kind of guy. And, he had cancer 3 times. Wow. And twice he had throat cancer. And my dad, he made a living with his voice. He was a professional newscaster on one of the biggest radio, networks in the world, Los Angeles. And I remember when I was young and he had throat cancer, and they said, okay, we have some options. We can go in and remove your tonsil cord, your vocal cords, or we can do radiation. And, my dad, as stubborn as he was, I'm not sure where I get that, but he said, no way. He said, I'm a professional voice guy, and I'm not going to lose my vocal cords. So they did the radiation, and he worked in the industry for another 20 years, and then got the cancer again. And at this point in his career, same thing. He was a little bit older. He was doing voiceover work. He was a professional voiceover artist, And same thing, he said, no, you're not going to take my vocal cords out. You're going to do it again. We're going to do the radiation. I'm going to not use my voice for several months, and I'm going to come back and keep going. And he did. I'm sure that was a huge influence on me, by example of,
Yeah.
you don't quit. You just don't quit.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does an extraordinary entrepreneur actually look like in real life, not Instagram life?
Well, whew, you know, a real life entrepreneur hopefully is enjoying life. And they're having the moments where they're having a good time. They're doing their family. Their family's a priority. Their partner, their spouse is a priority, and they're enjoying life. But I'll tell you what, behind closed doors, the stress is real. The fight, you hear the stories about the guys who are like an overnight success. uh, you know, I heard a story not too long ago. There's a very successful tech startup here in Utah that went public. I think the founder had $1 billion exit or something, and he was not very well known. His business kind of flew under the radar. I want to say it was like 7 years of building, building, building before he had this big exit. And someone, it took 7 years to get there.
Oh man, here we have technical difficulties, but hey, hopefully he'll get back on. There we go.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, you went out on me. But yeah, the entrepreneurial world is not an easy one. It's a tough one. It's very rewarding. But yeah, the stuff you see on Instagram, the people driving fancy cars, showing off their fancy vacations, their fancy watches. I mean, a lot of that really is just fake. It just drives me nuts. I mean, it's not real. But let it motivate you if that's what it does. Let it motivate you to be successful. Let it motivate you to be, hey, I want to have a car like that one day. Use that as motivation. There's nothing wrong with it, but don't look at it and say, oh man, I wish someday I could figure it out, but I can never do that. I'm not going to be that guy. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Nah, yeah,
Because
like you
most of
said,
the time it's fake.
yeah, use it as motivation, like you said. Like you look at it and be like, oh, here we go again. Is it me? Am I offline? Let's see how I'm gonna tell if it's me with the issue. Because we'll find out right now. Nope, it is not me. Uh, so yeah, I thought it was me, but listen, hopefully you can get back on here and we can continue this conversation because it was really great. But anyway, I might as well take this time out and talk about tomorrow's episode. I'm having a high school friend of mine come on. She's a published author. She's got some children's book out. She's touring, speaking all over the world, country. I'm so excited to have her on the show tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow because I'm gonna have Dorian Stewart. She, like I said, me and her went to high school together. She's touring the country right now, promoting her children's book and her workshops and everything. So I'm excited to have her on the show because we get to talk about what we did in high school and what we're doing now. So there we go. There we
Okay.
go.
Okay. Sorry, man. That was my bad. My bad. My
It,
internet just dumped.
it happens. It happens. I was able to talk about who my guest tomorrow anyway, so that's fine. We had time. Oh, there we go. So again,
What's going on here?
it's happening. It's about that. Well, you know what? We're about the time of the show where you get the solo screen and you get to plug away and let everybody know all your platforms, everything.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Let's see if my internet will let me do this. But our platform is Bootstraps and Battle Scars. So we have a podcast that we're just recording some sessions and getting ready to release that on the YouTube. My handle is Chris Shurian, Shurian, easy to find. And then we're still establishing all the websites and all the LinkedIn. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. But yeah, we're enjoying the podcast. We're interviewing other entrepreneurs and hearing their story. I think we can learn a lot from other people's stories, and that's what we're working on. I've been out and about meeting with other people, and I've really enjoyed it. So hopefully we can somehow motivate and influence other entrepreneurs, motivate them to keep going. And if there's some nuggets that they can take away from the stories I have, then I hope that's how that works. So it's been great. It's been a journey. As over the last 39 years, I've had some successes. I've had some failures, but I use those failures as learning experiences, and those experiences have made me a better person and provided wisdom and provided knowledge that I can share with others. So it's been a great journey, and I look forward to moving down the road and having success with it.
Awesome, man. Chris. Thank you so much for being such a great guest. Don't leave just yet. Let me close out the show and we'll chat a little bit off the air. But thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Another great episode is in the books. I appreciate everybody who stopped by and tuned in. If this conversation hit home, Chris is someone you want in your corner. You can connect with him through Bootstraps and Battle Scars and his mastermind experience, Founders Exchange, where entrepreneurs stop pretending and start building for real. And if you're listening to this thinking that sounded like my story, share this episode with someone who's still in the fight. We don't grow alone, we grow together. All right, so everybody have a great day. Happy holidays. Peace out.